Hey everyone, Lance here. As some of you may know, I do want to paint my ram coolers because after going to a white build, bright red Ripjaws ram coolers don't quite fit in with the theme. So I'm going to be painting those white, of course, with this VHT Flameproof exhaust paint. This should give it a satin finish, and that's what I want. Hopefully it should look very similar to the original finish, but I will also be putting on the Ripjaws X stickers so they look like genuine ram sticks still and don't look cheap with just sort of a white heat spreader on there. And I'll be using the original packaging to keep the adhesive that sticks the coolers to the ram nice and clean while I'm painting it all. So if you've still got the packaging and you're wanting to follow me along with this will be helpful. If you don't, you may just need to find some plastic and stick that on that adhesive on the back. I'll get in close and I'll show you guys how it all looks in there, but the red stands out like a sore thumb. It really does. The computer's shut down, obviously that's the first step, and now I'm going to take the RAM out of the system. I'll first switch it off at the wall and make sure there's no power left in it, and we will undo these little clips which are a little bit fiddly because they're behind my radiator. But that is the first stick of Ripjaws, and that's the other side. The label was red because my red coolant leaked a while ago, but that's not a problem, it still works fine. I'll be heating these up with a heat gun, but you can use a hairdryer. It might just take a little bit more heat to get this hot enough to remove the cooler or the heat spreader. But I'll be peeling these stickers just by peeling from the edges and going slowly, trying not to kink those stickers. And I'll also need to find a safe place to put those. So I am just slowly peeling from a corner, and try not to crease it because then that's not going to stick down, or it might stick down, it just may not look nice afterwards. And you want to peel slowly to make sure you don't leave any residue or too much residue, and so they don't rip. They come off reasonably easy. This one's almost off. And there's some residue on there, so I'll clean that up before I sand these. Now I need to find somewhere safe to stick this in the meantime. So I'm going to heat these up with the heat gun and remove those heat spreaders. I'm just going to use my fingernails to apply force. I don't want to use a screwdriver or anything like that because it could damage the memory or it could scratch the heat spreader. So I'm only going to be using my fingernails when I apply heat with the heat gun. Probably a bit loud to hear over that, but you can see there's the adhesive there. It's probably not going to be in focus for you, but I'm going to cover that with plastic. I'm going to cut some strips from the packaging. I've moved to the basement and of course set out my work area and put on some clothes that I don't care too much about. What I've got here is a product called Dissolve It. This is basically a glue remover, and it's going to work really well to get the sticky residue from the stickers off these RAM coolers. So I'm going to do that, and once I've done that, I'll give the RAM a wet sand with this 800 grit sandpaper to rough it up so the paint sticks nicely. And then of course, for anyone that's never spray painted anything before, you will need to shake the can vigorously so you can hear that ball bouncing around freely. Once you've done that, you want to apply even coats. You don't want to go for full coverage with your first coat because you'll get orange peel and runs. You want to build up the coats over several layers to get full coverage on whatever you're painting. So with this Dissolve It stuff, all I'm going to be doing is spraying that on like that, reasonably liberally. It doesn't matter if you get too much, and then just using a microfiber cloth to wipe that off. This just means my sandpaper is not going to get gunked up while I'm sanding or doing my wet sand. That sticky residue is now cleaned off the RAM cooler. As you can see, it's got a nice clean shiny surface. So I'm going to sand this surface to scuff it up to help the paint stick. So all I'm going to do is tear a strip, and I'm just going to get it a little bit wet so I can just dip it in there, and then it doesn't need to be soaking, just a little bit wet, and then just roughly scuff up that surface. Try and get all the edges around here, especially the bits that you'll be seeing. You want to make sure the paint sticks there properly. And if there is any scratches or little gouges, the paint should mostly fill that in. But the majority of the surface is going to have the sticker on it anyway, so you just want to mostly aim for those top sections and make sure you don't miss the corners and in the little crevices and bits like that. You can see that's got a nice scuffed up surface to it. Now that I've sanded them, it's just about time to paint them. So what I've got to do is just wipe them down with a damp rag. I'm going to use a microfiber cloth, and that's to remove any sanding dust before painting, because you don't want that dust stuck in the paint. It will affect the finish. There'll be imperfections. So I'm just going to use one end of this as a wet end and one end as a dry end to dry it off, and I'm just going to rub it down to get any possible dust off it, and then use the dry end to dry it off. Nice and simple. They're all painted, so I'm going to leave them till tomorrow to dry before I put it all back together. And if I were you, I wouldn't fixate too much on how many coats to do or how many coats I did. For a figure, I probably did about 10 coats, but that doesn't mean to say that you have to do 10 coats as well. Everyone has their own painting techniques. Some people may do thicker or thinner coats, especially if you're a beginner to painting things like I am. I've given those RAM coolers a couple of days for the paint to dry. So we can see here those RAM coolers, they came out with a slight matte finish that I actually think looks really good. So I'm going to get to sticking these on the memory. So I just want to first peel off that plastic backing that I put on there to protect the adhesive. And that has stuck on really well. So we've got that surface, and then we want to line up the memory. And it should sit against that hard edge, and then we just want to push it down, and then we want to get one that we can see there's a clip on each end that's slightly different. By the looks, they've matched that perfectly, so you can't ever sort of mix and match them wrong. So I want to get another one and peel that off. Comes off reasonably easy, and that will slot into that slight notch, and same on the opposing side, like so, and then that will stick down onto the memory. As simple as that. Now that's one stick all done. If you wanted to, you could leave it like that. I'm going to be sticking the stickers back on. And because it is a matte finish, you probably don't want to handle this with dirty hands, because it could get into the texture and leave a dirty finish. But that looks quite good as it is, I think. Once the sticker's on, it's going to look even better. The stickers are on. They did get a little bit creased. It's not quite as nice as I'd hoped. But now all that's left to do is put them in the system and see how it all looks back together. So there we have it, it's all done. The RAM coolers are in, the system is back up and running, and I think this is a great way to make your build stand out from all the rest. I'm really pleased with how it came out. There's no longer those big red obnoxious RAM coolers in the middle of a whole lot of black and white. There is still some red just on the motherboard, but it's a tolerable amount. That slight red actually looks quite good, so I'm really happy with how it all looks now. The only thing really left to do from here is to show you guys it all up close. And hey, I do thank you guys all a lot for watching. Feel free to like, subscribe, or follow me on Instagram or Twitter. Links down in the description below. But hey, I'll see you in the next one.